Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Between Sessions with Berries. Excited to have our guest today. Our guest is Alicia Murray. She's a therapist turned business consultant and the founder of The Therapist HQ. Love that name. After launching her solo practice in 2020 and scaling to a thriving group by 2021, Alicia made it her mission to support other therapists in doing the same without sacrificing their values or sanity, which is so important. Through her content, community, and consulting, she helps therapists build profitable, freedom-focused businesses with clarity and confidence. So whether you're starting from scratch or growing your next chapter, Alicia is here to remind us that you don't have to do it alone. Alicia, welcome. So glad to have you here.
Thank you so much for that intro.
Oh, you're so welcome. So take us back to the early days of starting your private practice. Maybe we could get into like some of the emotions or obstacles that you faced that other therapists might be facing today and really resonate with. I'm sure you've been through it all.
Sure. Yeah. So in 2019 is when I really boots on the ground. I was in community mental health. I was between a substance use clinic, an outpatient clinic, and working for the VA, also doing community work, working with severe mental illness in the community. And it was just a lot. I knew I wanted a family. I'd been married in 2018. I knew a family was on the horizon. I am a very planner type A. So I'm looking ahead. I'm how is this going to work? I'm working over 40 hours a week. I'm not getting compensated enough to justify daycare. Where is this going to fit in? And so 2019, while on the whole getting pregnant journey, I also was okay, we're just going to try the private practice. And my husband and I always went into it with if it doesn't work, there's a million community mental health jobs. It's okay. Looking back, I wish I didn't have that mindset because I really didn't need a plan B. But I think in the moment, it's you have to kind of have the safety net to fall back on. So 2019, I was YouTubing, researching, following people like you, trying to get all the information that I could about starting this practice. And it's so funny because this was pre-COVID. So when I said I wanted to start a virtual practice, I had so many people. Nobody wants virtual therapy. It doesn't work. It's not a good way to deliver services. And the VA has been studying virtual therapy for 15 years at this point to serve veterans in rural areas. So I was no, I've seen the research. It works, And so I launched in January 2020, obviously. March.
Oh my gosh. Right on the cusp.
Yeah. But I got pulled out of work actually because I was pregnant at that point, which was kind of a godsend. Wow. So I was well, it has to work at this point. And so I made it work. And then I had my first baby in July, expanded to a group that next year, and then started consulting actually 3 months after I had my second baby.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That's incredible.
Thank you.
So how many kids now? Two kids?
2 kids under 5.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I love what you said about okay, if it doesn't work, it's that mindset thing. I remember when I was working for an agency and then I was okay, I'm going to do the private practice thing. Instead of doing it real gradually, I was I'm just going to do this.
Oh, wow.
But feeling you could always just go back if you have to.
Yes.
I think it's such an important mindset shift. But I love what you said, too. You really don't need to. If you put your mind to it and you follow great systems or use a coach that can help you through it, you're probably going to be okay. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And anything to get out of that grind. Oh, my gosh. The community mental health and this job and that job and piecing it all together and working 100 hours a week.
Yeah. Oh, my God. The brain space and the emotional space that you get back, it takes a few months, but then you're oh, my gosh, I was so deep in this,
Yes. Oh my gosh, what you said, I don't have kids, but what you said about I'm not even making enough to be able to pay for daycare. How do you manage that? It's just really scary.
It is scary. Yeah. It's a crisis at that point because you're wait, I have this $100,000 degree and
yes.
I have to pay for child. Wait a minute, this isn't adding up.
Let's talk about Therapist HQ a little bit. And I'm assuming before you started that, you remember how lonely and really confusing the process felt for you. Mm-hmm. What kind of support do you wish you had had back then when you were jumping into that thing?
I think first and foremost, being surrounded by people who saw the vision and didn't hate the vision. As far as other therapists in the field, I remember people in community mental health are well, I'm here because private practice is such a grind and it doesn't work and you're always scrambling and hearing these words clawing and scrambling. And I was oh my gosh, that sounds really stressful and, not I don't know, supportive of the life that I want to have. And so I think just being surrounded by people who see the vision and are like, yes, that's great. You can totally do this. I think we forget that at the root of all of this is serving our clients. And so being able to do so in a way where we as a therapist feel supported and grounded in what we're doing and are able to serve the clients that we work best with, kind of like the whole point in a way. And so definitely the support aspect, number one, I wish I had. And then just the roadmaps, the do this and then do this and then do this and stop Googling, stop YouTubing. This is all you need to do. And I've really taken my brand like therapist BFF tone of I like explaining things like your best friend. Super simply, really downplaying, I think, this mountain that we make it out to be. You know, we hear terms like, well, you do the PLC and the EIN and the NPI, and people are like, I'm a therapist. Like, stop. I don't know what all this is. And so I think those three major pieces are what I have really strived to provide to therapists that are now looking to make that transition.
Yeah, I love that so much. Yeah, you probably did the same thing. When you start private practice, it's like, I'm just going to take any client that'll work with me. I'm going to set my rates, really. Yeah, any price. It's just anything to get out of this other crap that I'm doing. I'm going to do this. Mm-hmm. And then you're trapped in that nicheless kind of ethos out there where you're just working with all kinds of people and it really burns you out. Yeah.
Totally.
Oh my gosh. So it's easy to do that, right? It's easy to just say, I'll take whoever and I'll just make money and see clients. I'm a therapist. I can figure this out, that kind of thing. So what's your advice or strategy around maybe niching down or deciding who the right clients are and then making great boundaries in your practice to try to help you work with the right type of client for you so you're having fulfilling practice that you're running?
Yeah, I am so big on the values-based. And I don't know if like being a mom just really softened me in that way and made this so glaringly important. But when's the last time we've done our own work on our values and our goals and what we want to spend time doing and not doing? And I think doing a deep dive into that of ourselves and then building the business around it is so important because we've been so accustomed to fitting our personal lives around our jobs. And in private practice, the whole point is that we can fit our practice around our lives. And so it's kind of this like deconstructing of these systems and values that we've had to make it more personalized and make it work for us. So I think that's first and foremost is like, who are we and what do we want? And building the practice around that. And then the rest that follows is so important as far as, like you said, like the niching, creating your schedule and knowing you have to stick to it, creating your session fee, and also building in your sliding scale. There's nothing wrong with sliding scale. And I feel like people think that if you're private pay, like that's it. But I think that there's a lot of merit in folks that are private pay can actually give back, I think, in greater ways. Sometimes you have the room to offer pro bono services. I've done $20 or $30 services because people lose their insurance or just hit hardships or whatever it may be. And, you know, being a private pay practice allows me to do things like that. So I think that having an understanding of the business aspect where you don't have to sacrifice accessibility to care and things like that, and you can remain in your own kind of like ethics and whatever it may be to serve the clients in that way. But you have to have it on paper. You have to have those things situated and know what you're even abiding by in order to move through the business and maintain those boundaries.
I love that. Let's sit down and do the values work a little bit. Let's take a little bit of time, like honor ourselves enough to be authentic and get in touch with really what works for us kind of thing. Yeah. And I don't know about you, and maybe it's changed for you, but over the years, my niche has changed based on my life and trying to stay authentic to that. It was a big adjustment for me to decide, okay, I'm a traveling therapist, digital nomad now. I don't want to see these really acute trauma-based clients anymore. I'm doing EMDR with them like 4 times a week. I don't want to do that anymore because it's like too heavy, being in a different country, that kind of thing. And I don't know. I mean, do you see people like falling into these mindset traps? Because it took me a long time to get out of that. I felt like I was trained in EMDR. I specialized in PTSD. I've done it for 20 years. I have to still see these clients, even though my lifestyle isn't conducive or feeling connected to that anymore, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that people feel like it's starting over to change their niche. And it is like a pivot and it is an adjustment. I mean, I'm sure you know after making it, but if you already have the foundations of your practice, it's not starting over. Chances are you have the good marketing and you know how to write good copy and you know how to speak to your ideal client, and you're just putting that out there. You're just putting it out there in a different way.
Rebranding, I guess, based on where you are in the moment or in your life at that time.
But you don't have to be married to it. It can bend and move with us.
Yeah. I love that so much. It just giving yourself permission to do it. Yeah. So do you see therapists in that mindset trap? Or I'm just curious, like working with the Therapist HQ and all of that stuff, do you see a certain set of mindset traps that therapists come in with and it's hard to get out of, and maybe you help them through that? What do you see a lot?
Yeah, I think the major ones are actually not having a niche, because I think in community mental health, you see everybody. Like you see anybody they put on your caseload, anybody that comes through the door. And so when it comes to like, oh, like, what do you specialize in? What's your niche? And they're like, nah, I'm a therapist, I help people. And so like really getting clear on who energizes you, who are your ideal clients, things like that. And also the pay structure. The pay and the money is always something that I think therapists have just a really interesting relationship with, and working through that in a way that serves them and serves the business, and also just continues to make it accessible for the clients.
Absolutely. I've kind of heard that same mindset shift. If I want to charge $250 an hour, I can do that, but then I'm going to have these sliding scale spots where I can just offer pro bono, and I can make room for that because I'm more abundant in what I have coming in, so I can give back from like a healthy place instead of I'm going to give everybody a sliding scale, try to help everybody. Then you're not helping yourself. It's like the oxygen analogy, the baby on the airplane kind of thing is when you're talking about that. That's what it makes me think of. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot around like protecting ourselves in a way, like around stuff like that. I talk a lot about you can offer these pro bono services, but everything should come with an agreement. You don't want to get stuck in these pro bono services forever. And so I push a lot for the therapists that I work with, just have them sign a 6-month agreement or a 12-month agreement just to reevaluate. If they're still in need of it, you're in charge. You can do it as long as you want, but to have something on paper where you're not married to this indefinitely, I think that also preserves the relationship a little bit, because people's situations change. And so the accessibility to therapy was also going to change.
It totally does. I have gotten resentful when I've offered some long-term sliding scale kind of thing. And then it's the classic, like the client's like, oh my God, I just took a trip to Bali. And it was like, $7,000. And it's like, yeah, you're paying me $20 an hour. It's like, wait a second, like that kind of thing.
Right. And then it's like, how do we bring this up tastefully that like, hey, this doesn't seem like it's working anymore.
It's like, I'm kind of pissed. Yeah. Why am I letting myself do this to myself? It's really what it is. It's our own boundaries and all that stuff. So I love that we're talking about that for sure. So let's talk about networking and how relationship building can play a role in the growth as a therapist and even as a consultant for you with what you're doing. Because a lot of people that listen to this podcast are therapists, but maybe they've got other income streams and that sort of thing. So I feel like networking is like the core of that. Do you have suggestions, tips, strategies around how to do that to make your practice grow more successfully?
Yeah, it's so funny how like we're so comfortable talking to people all day. When it comes to talking about ourselves, we are not into it whatsoever. So I live and die by like an elevator speech. I'm like, everybody who has any kind of business should be able to share who they are, what they do in a memorable way in an elevator ride. So I have like templates and such that I work with folks on that with. And so just to be comfortable, I encourage them like keep it in their phone and don't memorize it, but know what you want to hit as far as like, are you virtual? What's your niche? And not just what's your niche, like what are people feeling when they come to you? What are their pain points, things like that. How do they get in contact with you? Something fun and quirky about yourself to keep it memorable, and just having that kind of like on hand, just as kind of like a safety net when you're going into situations like that. But the crux of it just comes with really owning what you do and like owning what you're providing to the community or to the clients that you serve. If you have intensives or worksheets or workbooks, whatever it is that you're doing and that you're selling and that you're providing, really finding a way to speak about it in a grounded and confident way, I think is truly maybe more than half the battle when it comes to that.
Where do you recommend people find people to network with? Do you have strategies around that you help other therapists with?
Yeah. In today's world, like the local Facebook groups always seems like a good place to start. And people just starting out, I just have them search up in Facebook, like your city, your town, your county, like therapists or social workers or private practice, like all those different combinations. And some of those groups already do in-person meetups. I know one of my really good friends who's a therapist in the area started her own meetup, and just it grew because we started with people we went to school with, and then it came to people that we've worked with and met along the way. And like now it's a robust group of like 30 therapists. And so I have another therapist that I've consulted who started her own as well. She's doing like a walk and talk networking. So even starting small with 4, 5, 6 clinicians, chances are it's going to grow over time, and not to be afraid of like starting these meetups with one person and then inviting someone else, and then inviting someone else,
Yeah.
knowing that it'll grow over time.
It's definitely that connection, it sounds like. Figuring out how to connect with others and building those relationships is so important.
Yeah. Also Instagram. I know that a lot of people use Instagram to get clients, but I've connected with so many specialists and other therapists or psychologists just through getting like a peek behind the curtain, if you will, and being like, oh my gosh, I love that drink. I love that outfit. I love that training, like whatever it might be, and connecting in those personal ways. And then it turns into like a really great professional resource to have.
That's amazing. You're a mom. You've got this therapist HQ. You're a therapist. You've got a practice, all of that. How are you managing all this? Everybody always wants to know, like, how do you manage all this? How do you make it all work? I'd love to hear.
That's a great question.
You're like, I don't know. I'm not. No.
No, I always struggle answering this question. Okay, so for the practice, I will say hiring. Like 3 years ago, I was floundering. Like I was in such a hard spot with my group practice. I was really, really sick with my second pregnancy. And so the whole pregnancy, I just went by the wayside for a long time. Well, about 8 months. And so hiring, first I hired a biller. She cleaned up my billing. This is like so embarrassing. I had like $6,000 of unpaid session fees amongst my group practice, just of people's cards that denied or expired. And I just didn't follow through with them. And God bless her soul, she recouped probably like 80 to 85% of them. And then we wrote off the rest. But like, imagine if I kept my heels dug in the ground and didn't hire.
Yes.
So I hired her, and then I hired a VA this year. And let me tell you, both of them are life-changing. Absolutely life-changing. And then when it comes to Therapist HQ, I still manage everything as far as that goes. My biller takes care of like some of the billing on the side for me. But as far as like the rest of it, like it's always me behind the email and me behind the social media. And I really enjoy that piece, and I really like that piece. And so I feel okay with that right now. And then also just finding childcare where you can. And I think the really cool thing about the consulting one, where there's not like a set schedule typically, is that I work around my kids' schedule. I work while they're in preschool, or I work while they're napping, or while they're in bed. And I don't necessarily mind doing that in this season of life. I know that some people really value that time for other things, and I think that they should definitely go forth with that. Back to values, finding like how you can spend your time in a way that you don't dread work, you don't dread doing the work, and you're also maintaining these other things that are important to you. So I think the moral of the story is just like hiring help, like having, you can't do it all by yourself, and you can't grow anything if you are a one-person show. And that was a hard lesson to learn, but it has been learned.
Yeah. No, I was in the same boat, because that's another mindset thing, right? It's like, I don't want to spend money, that whole thing. But it's like, gosh, if you don't, how are you ever going to scale and grow?
Right.
But I was in the same place too. It took me a long time to hire. And now I'm like, thank God. I don't have to come up with that email or respond to those people. Or it helps so much give you space to just have room to breathe, for sure. Yeah. That's such good advice. I love it.
Yeah. And it is hard because, like you said, session fees, it's like we schedule an appointment, we get paid for it. But when you have help, you're paying for a service that isn't necessarily bringing in tangible money. But I think that there is a return coming in. And I think that's what people need to focus on, is there is a return coming in from spending that money.
Yes, absolutely. We talk a lot about this on this podcast, tech and AI, and how are you using that in your business? Is it helping you with scaling? Is it helping you run things easier? Is it helping you in your private practice? How's all that going for you, and what's your feeling? And do you like talk about it in the Therapist HQ too, and help other clinicians use it?
Yeah, I love AI.
Me too.
Using it responsibly, I think it's a great tool. So I have a community for therapists that are in private practice or going into private practice. And a couple months ago, or actually last month, I launched a custom GPT, which has been so phenomenal for the users. And so it's basically like my brain, my guides, my courses, all in this GPT. It has an intro intake where it really gets a full picture of what their niche is, what their branding is. I have them do their whole Canva brand kit in there with their fonts and their colors and everything that they need to know about them. And then when we do weekly social media prompts or blog post prompts or different marketing things that they want to do, the GPT it creates these things in their voice for their ideal client in seconds. And it's a huge administrative burden lifted. And I think some of the feedback I've heard is like, oh, I've been wanting to start a group, but I have just been dragging my feet because it seems like so much work. And like the GPT just created the flyers and I went through different pay structures. I'm big on like therapist math and you have to allocate taxes and operating expenses and all those things. And it broke down, if you charge this for the group, this is what you'll actually make. If you charge this for the group, this is what you'll actually make. And you can offer pro bono and you can offer sliding scale, and just having all of that laid out for folks and having them be able to make these really solid, informed decisions when doing things for their business has just been incredible. The best thing I've put out there, I think, so far.
It's amazing. It's amazing. If anybody listening doesn't know what we're talking about, it's basically with ChatGPT, you can build these customized GPTs that are basically digital twins of yourself. And a lot of people, exactly what Alicia's talking about, build GPT that's basically your brain, and you put it into the programs, and it's like a mini a twin of Alicia that you can like pick her brain anytime you want to, which is so cool. It's just so innovative, I think, to have that inside of a coaching program. Yeah, very cool. Very cool. So what about the rest for therapists? Like, do you think they should use AI for notes or documentation or treatment plans? How do you feel about all that stuff?
Yeah, I think it's a great tool. Coming from somebody who was behind on progress notes, again, when I was really sick during my pregnancy, I actually used Blueprint AI to get myself out of the hole, to get those notes caught up, to stay caught up. I know even my EHR that I use, Jane, they have an AI scribe that they have rolled out. So I think that it's really great that there's all of these different options for folks to use. And there's so many different brains of therapists. There's people who are neurodivergent, people who have chronic illness, people who are just pulled in all these different directions, people who are just starting out. I wish people understood more the way that it's really helped therapists to like be more present in session and be there for their clients in a way that is so much more meaningful and grounded. And I think that they're really innovative and really helpful. And I really encourage people to make sure that they're secure, they're HIPAA compliant, they have the end-to-end encryption, all of those things. And then, use away. Take that burden off, like you don't have to be burdened with everything just because you own the practice.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm right there with you. It's wonderful and scary all at the same time, but just has allowed me to scale exponentially in everything I'm doing. It's just incredible. Yeah. Thanks for sharing about that and using the GPT. It's amazing. And anybody listening, you can build your own GPTs to almost be your own digital twin too and help you in your own life. It's just incredible what you could do with these things. So anyway, I'm glad you brought that up. Okay, so for a therapist who's listening and they feel stuck or overwhelmed, what's one simple action step that you can suggest to somebody to help them get out of that and get going with practice with good boundaries or sustainable fee structure? What advice can you give around that to help a therapist that might be stuck right now?
Yeah, if they're stuck in like the starting point of not knowing where to start or how to start, I would say sit down and schedule out 1 hour a week where you can focus that 1 hour on your practice, on what you want it to be, what you want it to look like, what you want it to provide for you. Even financially is obviously important, but outside of financially, what else are you looking forward to provide for you? Is it going to be your primary source of income? What kind of schedule do you want to work? What kind of clients do you want to work with? And once you kind of get the ball rolling and see the vision, I don't know if you had this experience. I remember when I mapped out the schedule that I could have, I was like, this is a schedule that I can get behind in my life. And so I think that really helps to get the ball moving, to sort of really see it come to life in a way. And then moving through the rest of the pieces and getting support where you can and where you need it.
So where would people find you if they wanted to learn more about your program and what you do and how you help them? Where's the best place to find you?
Yeah, Instagram and TikTok at the Therapist HQ. And then in both of those, my shop is linked that has a bunch of free resources, my
Nice.
community, any guides, and all of those good things are all linked in there.
Love it. Of course, we'll put it in the show notes. Before we go, I always love to do a lightning round and just ask you some fun questions at the end.
Yeah.
So, what's your one must have coffee order that you always go to?
Cold brew extra cream.
I love it. Oh, that sounds so good. What's the best piece of advice for a therapist in their first year of private practice that you could give?
Doubt yourself and do it anyway.
Ooh,
Yeah.
love it.
Lean into the fear.
Yes, love that. Love that. And this is a guilty pleasure, but a reality TV show that you'd secretly love to be a guest expert on.
Oh my gosh, I am obsessed with 90 Day Fiance, and the therapists
Oh my
that
gosh.
they have on there always just, they fascinate me.
Oh my God, I would love that too. Or I've always wanted to be on the crime shows. You know how they always interview the expert? It's like, oh my God, how do these people get these gigs?
That's a good one.
I love that. Thanks. Thanks so much for being here, Alicia. I really appreciate it. I hope that everyone will check out your program, follow you on Instagram, all that good stuff. You've got a ton of knowledge to offer. Plus the fact that you're a mom and you're building out this other program and you're a therapist and you have a private practice and all that good stuff. I just love that you came today and shared all your knowledge with everybody.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.